APs last year, which were statistics, physics, C mechanics, and US government and politics. And of those, the first two that I mentioned, I took because they were sort of extensions of my school curriculum, and those were a little easier to study for because I could study, like Arsh said, you could study for it alongside your school curriculum, and there was only like minimal material that went outside of that school curriculum. Uh, and the U.S. government politics thing I took because I'm really interested in it, and it's a subject that I wouldn't have been able to take in school, probably, because it's like really focused, and that was a really interesting thing to learn about as I prepared for that test. Yeah,
And did you take all three at the end of grade 11?
yeah, yeah, all at the same time.
Super. Very interesting combination, right? Because you got math, you got science, and then you got a humanities subject. So there's diversity there. Whereas, with the subject combination for Arsh, you can sort of see that he's going towards in business or economics or something like that. So if you can just talk briefly, Arsh first, then Tanay, about this overlap that you have mentioned between the IB and the AP, subject by subject, that, let's say micro or macroeconomics. So what you did in the IB and how the AP curriculum was different and how the test was different.
Okay, yeah. So when I took the AP exam, that was when the online exams, because of the COVID pandemic, the online APs were being propagated, and instead of having the traditional AP, which will probably start in next year, I'm not sure what that. Instead of the traditional AP exams that has a lot of MCQs and is a lot more elaborate, the AP exam I personally had to give was um, like much easier, because it's not only because it was open book, because it was online, they decided to make it open book, but also because the subject content overlap was greatly reduced as they decided to provide accommodations for the COVID pandemic. Uh, Therefore, so for example, in micro and macroeconomics, the AP portion is pretty much the same as IB Economics HL, and IB Economics SL has uh, for microeconomics has one chapter more. That's pretty much 1 2 weeks of studying, not too much. And also alongside the IB, in IB you write essay questions for 10 15 markers, which go 2 3 4 5 pages. Whereas in the AP exams, they were highly focused, and you would probably be writing half a page maximum for the most elaborate of answers, whereas the IB would go for 2 3 sides of a page. Moving on to calculus, BC, and statistics. The statistics syllabus, at least in my school, we start doing statistics at the end of grade 12. So I had to pretty much self-learn statistics for the AP Stats exam. And so it helped me a lot because it gave me an advantage right now in the 12th grade. But that's one part. And then in the calculus, BC is pretty much a traditional math paper. It's question answers, not too different, and very similar to mathematics HL, AAHL, and pretty different. Like the higher level parts of calculus BC is not then math AI and ASL.
Before we jump to Tanay, Arsh, what if a student is doing like IB SL economics,
Hmm.
and they want to take a AP macro and micro?
Hmm.
Or
Okay.
they want to take it, right? I'm not propagating that, but let's say a kid says, I want to do that. How much extra work do you think they would have to do?
So that was personally my case because I also took IB Economics SL standard level. So I found that uh, the macroeconomics portion was pretty much the same. The only part that you might have to be worried about is because usually schools will not have finished the macroeconomics portion by the end of grade 11, where you will traditionally be taking the AP exams. So it'll actually help you a lot because you get, while you might have to study a lot more towards the end of 11th grade, it helps uh, ease of pressure during the beginning of 12th grade. So that helps a lot because the portion in macroeconomics and AP is overlapping with IB SL almost completely. IB microeconomics for standard level students has one chapter more, which will traditionally take someone, like if you're doing it at a leisurely pace, like typically 1 month of studies, I'd say 1 month, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, should be more than enough. Just two chapters of difference, 1 or 2 chapters.
Superb, thanks. Tanay, what about stats, physics C, and US government and politics?
Yeah, so like Arsh said, for statistics, it's there in our portion, but depending on when your school actually does statistics, you might have to end up studying it yourself. But in that case, studying for the AP exam will definitely help you when your school gets around to teaching you statistics. Or if it's the other way around, then school statistics will help you prepare for the AP. For physics mechanics, which is the one I took, you can pick between mechanics and electromagnetism. For mechanics, it's more or less the same, except for like one extra chapter which is there, which is rotational mechanics. Uh, and that's about the only extra chapter that's there. Uh, if you take physics HL, which is what I've taken, then it's fairly easy. If you've taken SL, um, I'm not sure what exactly the SL portion is, but I know that each chapter has like an SL and an HL version of it. So ideally, there shouldn't be too much extra material to study, and if there is, it'll just build on the little bits that you already learn in SL. So you're not going to be learning entirely new topics other than that one topic, rotational motion. Uh, and US government and politics, I mean, you'll have to learn that from scratch. I don't think most schools would teach that anyways. But yeah, you'll have to end up learning that.
Super, that's very helpful. So, one of these things that I always get asked, and even somebody asked this question here, is when do you start preparing for it? How long does it take and how do you prepare for it? And I know that there isn't a uniform answer for this. I'm sure the answer was different for both of you guys for the different APs that you took as well. Could you just walk us through your journey of A, how did you decide to do that AP? When did you decide to do the AP? How did you prepare? Okay, we'll go Arsh first, Tanay second.
Yeah. So I personally knew I wanted to do AP exams, not only as a factor of differentiation, but also because I want to do economics in university and learn economics. And in the IB, I'm currently doing economics SL, unlike doing economics HL, because I wanted a more wider perspective. So that's why I thought that the AP exams are like a wonderful way to showcase that I have the knowledge of an HL student who likes economics a lot while doing economics SL. So I could self-study itself because I knew it wasn't that difficult. Um, that was primarily the main reason, and maths I just took because I like maths, and I thought why not? Because I was anyway going to do the stuff there. So I personally decided to take. You have to plan it a lot ahead because you have to pay the fees a lot in advance and roughly 6 months. I'm not sure on a date, but it's roughly 6 months in advance. So you need to know that you want to do it in advance. But so that's why you have to pay for it in advance. But I actually started studying for it roughly, I'd say, a month and a half before the exams, and I pretty much because it was close to the vacations and it was close, I had a lot of downtime with online school and stuff. Uh, I personally just did like 6 hours, 8 hours a day. Uh, like when I was, and I used Khan Academy mainly for pretty much all the AP. So for microeconomics and stats, like for both the economics and for both the calculus PC and stats, Khan Academy has amazing papers. Like it gives you questions wise, everything chapter wise questions at the end related to the topic, uh, and it has videos with explain stuff really wonderfully. So I literally just was on Khan Academy for like 100 hours in total. I'd say 100 or 150 hours, and I just watched all of the videos at like 2x speed, uh, to like just speed onto it. And then I started doing practice papers from AP test books. I just downloaded a few PDFs and just did the papers. And yeah.
So you were able to manage, right? with your
Yeah.
school background and the online videos and the practice papers, you were still able to manage and get very good scores.
Yeah. So a month and a half of rigorous prep is enough.
Yeah, super. Tanay.
Yeah. So as for why I chose these particular subjects, I mean, physics and stats, like I said, they have very little that adds on to your actual curriculum, and so I figured those would be better for me to do. There'd be a lot of overlap, and it would help me both ways. Um, and then government politics, like I said, I'm like just politics and all that really interested me, and it's something I wouldn't be able to take otherwise. So I decided to just sign up for that as opposed to something like history, which I already had taken before. Um, as for how I prepared for these, I after signing up, like Arsh said, you have to sign up months in advance. I mainly just studied the statistics thing because that one uh, well, I was a lot more scared for that, let's say. So I studied mostly that for the first like 4 months that I prepped for these. Um, and studying for the US government exam and the physics exam sort of came as like an afterthought. So I probably just went through the textbook about 5 times in the month before the exam. There's also these great resources that um, the AP organization ran on YouTube. There were these sort of videos covering each of the topics one by one, and I found this really helpful to just cover the portion quickly, I guess, and get through all of that. And uh, I mean, if you're trying to decide how you should study for these, it depends on what you think is the difficulty level for the subject relative to you. So, like in my case, statistics, it scared me at the beginning, so that's why I ended up focusing a lot on that. Um, and
Yeah, thanks for those
that's
insights.
helped me
It's,
a lot.
it's never easy to answer that question, how long should I spend preparing for this? It depends on a case by case basis. Is there an overlap with your school curriculum? How comfortable are you with this subject? What else have you got going on in your life? But I would say that both of you exemplified two different approaches to studying. Like Arsh did intense prep towards the end because there was a strong overlap with school, and Tanay like started a little bit earlier because you were a little bit worried about one of them, and that overlap was not there, so you sort of had to self teach yourself stats. So each one of you out there in the audience who's listening, then I would just say that calibrate this for yourself. Where do you stand? What is your background? Maybe even just doing a practice paper can help you understand what are you scoring like right now. And I would really encourage all of you to go and attend the remaining sessions, especially in the subjects that you're interested in, to get a detailed feedback on what is in every single test and the scoring pattern, because you want to get a 5 out of 5 in each one of them, right? That's the best score. Somebody asked me earlier, what's a good score? I said, okay, a 5 out of 5 is a good score, right? And many a times it's not that hard to get a 5 out of 5. You don't have to get like every single question in the paper right to get a 5 out of 5, unlike in the SAT and the ACT where the curve is very steep, right? And you have to get almost everything right. Okay, so let's shift gears. You guys went to a school where I think many people took the APs, right? So maybe could you share some insights on which were some of the most popular APs? Tanay, maybe for the STEM kids or the humanities kids or the business kids that you were friends with and that you heard voices are in the air around you that, oh, what are people taking? And same thing for you, Arsh.
Um, Honestly, I actually don't know many other people in my school who took APs this year. I don't know why our school tends to frown on APs. So like one time I signed up for Calc and had to miss it because school wouldn't give me leave. I do know some people have taken like comp science and physics if they're looking to go into engineering, but that's out of a sample size of one person that I'm going off of.
Okay. All right. Arsh, what about you?
I'd say the most like at least in again in my school, APs are strongly discouraged because we have the IB and that's usually thought of as a substitute. But like the most common or the most talked out of APs, I'm not sure who went through it because of the COVID pandemic. There was like a lot of uncertainties that was up, but people who are planning to take computer science, A and they were planning to take computer science. APs a lot. Alongside, I believe Comsa would be the most popular, after which calculus AB or BC, depending on the level, would be the second. And then it trails off to whichever part. So there was some with econ, etc.
Super. Since you guys brought it up, let's talk about it. There is this sort of uncomfortable feeling left hanging in the air when, at least for students who go to IB schools, international curriculum schools, where there is a lot said in the school that you don't need to do APs, right? And then even when you interact with admission offices, folks in admissions will tell you that no, you don't need it. Just do a good job of the IB. So where do you see value of the APs in your application? You guys both did it, you scored well, we can see the results in your college applications. Where do you see, how do you see the APs adding value to you as a person as well as in admissions? Arsh first, Tanay second.
Yeah. So I believe the APs, at least like when people say you just focus on IB, I believe the biggest advantage of the APs is that when you'll traditionally be giving it at the grade 11 mark, you get your response at grade 11 or the start of grade 12. You get a concrete mark from an accredited board about what you scored. So the very fact that you are able to do the APs, so unlike IB, in which you usually have to base your college out of predicted scores and scores that are given by a school. The AP are given by a central board, so it's a lot more objective. And I felt that even in cases in schools where there's heavy grade inflation or deflation, the APs are a standardized metric for you to base your application off of. So while you may say it's not needed, it I think it helps a lot because at least it gives, like for example, a SAT scores, it gives you a standardized metric to compare worldwide your performance. Um, Additionally, I thought, at least for me, the APs were really helpful because I know that I was able to finish a lot of the syllabus, especially like when during college admission time ramps up, the college admission season. The AP exams helped release a gave a lot of ease in two or three like the two IB subjects of maths and econ for me, because I was just able to, because I'd already given a test in those two subjects earlier, so it was a lot more easier to write essays or whatever I wanted to do during that time. So 12th first semester was really easy for me.
Superb. Tanay.
Yeah, again, so I probably would have reiterated a lot of Arsh's points. It's sort of like especially in high school, your school would usually make you like limit what subjects you take, and APs allow you to just say, okay, I don't want to be stuck to these six subjects or how many other subjects you take, uh, and you can sort of give these exams on the side to tell colleges, okay, look, I did these uh, subjects in school, but I'm also interested in these other sort of subjects, and this shows you my interest in it. And like for me, that would be the U.S. government and politics exams, for instance. And in the end, like we've also said, it helps you in just be more prepared for your school curriculum itself. Um, yeah, you just end up becoming prepared for it a lot earlier than your school normally would, or the other way around.
Great responses, guys. And one thing, if I may add on top of that, is which both of you haven't mentioned, you're going to get college credit. When you go to college and you show them that you've got these IBHLs and you've got these AP exams and scores of fours and fives, etc., that college is going to consider giving you credit. You're most likely going to be able to take slightly higher level classes or have credit to graduate faster. And that's a huge unspoken benefit so far. And that was one of the big things why people took the APs in the past, is I'm going to get college credit. And even I have many students, of course they take the APs in end of 10, end of 11, and that looks good in college admissions. It sort of helps them reaffirm academics at school. But then I also have kids who are taking APs at the end of 12, right? And to both of you here in front of everybody, I want to just remind you, you're still in the boat. So there's still an opportunity for you to take something in May, right? And get credit before you go to college in fall. So that's one very big added benefit of the AP, the credits. Since you guys have taken it, there has been a sort of tectonic shift. I'm sure you've heard of it. College Board is discontinuing the SAT subject test. As counselors and as tutors, multiple conversations in the backdoor channels. We feel at least that more and more students are going to be taking the APs. We feel more and more younger kids are going to be taking the APs, end of 9, end of 10 particularly. Because at the moment, typical is end of 11. The typical kid, both of you, end of 11, right? But going forward, I feel for those of you who are in the audience, and especially if you're in grade 9, I would encourage you to consider like computer science and psychology, human geography, environmental science, maybe statistics, a couple of other subjects that you're really passionate about. End of 9, end of 10, even, and then sort of little more higher order APs, end of grade 11. So with so much going on, like, and both of you guys had to do this. You had to do the school stuff, you had to do your profile, you had to do SAT, you had to do subject standardized testing in subjects. Then you did the APs. So I guess you are the masters of the universe when it comes to time management. And that is a serious challenge, for the vast majority of students. So if you have any tips or advice for the young un that are watching here, that would be fantastic. Maybe Tanay first and Arsh second.
Yeah, so we sort of touched upon this before, but uh, by giving the APs, you sort of end up shifting your time management from like having to do everything all at once, your applications and studying for your subjects and all your standardized testing, and you end up like shifting it in a way so that you have more free time to work on college applications later on, more like when you start your 12th grade. And by doing the APs a little earlier, you end up taking off some of that stress from like your actual school studies. If you've taken subjects that sort of complement, if you've taken APs that complement your school subjects. Uh, but like I said, my time management was definitely not on point, with me postponing my studying for the physics and government exams until later. And at those times, I had to end up spending a lot more time per day just studying for those particular things, which ended up taking away from time I had to study on, like to focus on schoolwork. Um, so yeah, definitely spread out your studying for the APs a bit more. Um, Even if you think it is easy, you can still start later. Just don't give yourself a week or two to study for the um, exam. And well, that sort of applies to everything, doesn't it?
Great. Arsh, your go.
Yep. So time management wise, like at least for me, the way I took the APs was I enrolled for it 6 months in advance. Like I knew what I wanted to do. So by the time I enrolled for it, I pretty much knew what the syllabus of each AP was, of which I chose. So like 6 months before the exam, I had a broad overview of what the syllabus and what the exam basically contained, and I knew how long it would take for me, and I pretty much planned that part out. Like that was just around 2 hours. Just think ahead. Like uh, if the calculus BC is a bit difficult for me, like how long do I actually need for it, and how many hours? Because if I do 1 week of studying, but if I do 12 hours a day, is almost equivalent like 1 month, but 4 hours a week or something like that. So I knew that if I managed to, and so I personally figured out that 1 month, 1.5 months of uh, 8 hours, 9 hours a day after school, just the entire time. And especially because once I found Khan Academy with online videos, they pretty much had uh, all the resources available. So with Khan Academy, uh, so I knew I had a broad plan in mind 6 months in advance, but I enacted the plan around 1.5 months before the AP, and I just studied like 10 hours, 8 hours a day, and that was enough, I believe.
Have a plan, get into action. Very simple, right? Easier said than done, right, guys? I know, I know. So I think that brings us to a close. If you could just give one final tip to the audience on choosing their APs, benefits of APs, how to go about it, anything that comes to your mind, that would be great. And then we'll just take a couple of questions from the audience and wrap it up. Whoever wants to go first.
I'd say just do whichever APs you're interested in, but just make sure like one of those is something that you wouldn't take in school at all. I think that might be an interesting thing, not only for you to learn, but also a really interesting thing for your college admissions officers, in fact. Um, it's and it would sort of give them sort of another facet of yourself to present.
I love that advice, Tanay. Thanks for that. Arsh, anything
Um,
come to your mind?
yeah, I probably echoes Tanai's sentiment in uh, because APs are like very diverse, and you pretty much choose whatever AP you want. It's not limited by what school you go to or where you are, and there are tons of resources online. So I'd say, uh, like choose whatever AP you genuinely like and you would like to just think about doing in the future. I would say think of APs as an experiment, maybe like as an experience, because you can pretty much experiment with whatever subject you want to do. And the last thing I would say is Khan Academy is pretty much amazing for all the APs, or 99% of the APs. Just watch their videos, and I'd say you're pretty much done.
Super. Thanks so much, guys. Um, I know both of you come from an international school, and probably that's not totally fair to our audience, many of whom are coming not from the IB, etc. So all I would say is if you're coming from the Indian curriculum, CBSC or ISC state curriculum, I would strongly encourage you to do the AP. Not only will it help you put your best foot forward in applications if you have a strong score, but it will also be a very good experience for you as you think of going to study abroad and engaging with the AP curriculum, the style of learning. I think you will see, you will learn something new. Okay, so that's one very big thing. And I completely echo Tanay's comments that people so many times come and tell me that, oh, IB is such a fantastic curriculum, and it is, but then it is also limiting in some ways, right? Because there is a limitation on the number of subjects that you can do and how much depth you can do them in. And A levels wins the trophy over there because you get to choose which subjects you want to do. So I think for those of you who are doing curriculum which are limiting in that manner in number of subjects that you can select, I think APs can complement that very nicely. And as Tanay spoke about doing history and how, even though he's coming from a STEM background, he's able to show this side of him that he's got that Indiana Jones streak in him. So that's fun for admissions. So on that note, let me just look at a couple of questions that have come in. So uh, one question which is for Tanay is for AP Physics C and Statistics, which book would you recommend?
Okay. I probably had like five different books that I got from like my seniors, so there's honestly no preference. Uh, there's a few of the well-known publishers. There's, I think, Princeton Review, Barron's, probably a few others, but it honestly doesn't matter. Just one of those would be a best bet.
Okay, all right, no problem. So that's that. And I think I have replied to all the other questions that were raised. Here's another one that has come up. Which book do you recommend for AB Microeconomics? Arsh? Any recommendations other than Khan Academy?
Yeah, I would recommend for microeconomics and macroeconomics. I'd say the Barron's has a really good econ textbook which has both the micro and macro thing. Um, I'd say that's pretty much it. Uh, Barron's typically tends to give you a lot more information that's needed, but I'd rather be on the safer side than on the uh, less safer side. Apart from that, I'd say YouTube and online videos are your best bet, basically. And you can even download PDFs online or whatever.
Yeah, lots of resources available online, right? Superb. So, more questions coming in. Yeah, this is always one we get, right? How many tests should be done before giving the actual exam? I mean, I don't know if there's an answer to that, but maybe you guys can give something. How many practice tests should you
I
do
think
before?
I did about, yeah. I think for stats, which, like I said, was the one I was most scared for, I only did like 5 practice tests, I think. Because after a point, you either like cover everything that comes, or uh, well, it just becomes repetitive after a point. Uh, for politics and for mechanics, I don't believe I did any. I think for politics, I did do a couple of just practice questions, but not full practice papers. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to step in there and say, do not follow that precedent. It would
Okay.
be a good idea to do some practice papers. Arsh, what's your take on this?
So I personally view practice papers as a way of giving you where you're strong at and where you're weak at. So if you take, like for example, if you keep on like after you learn and you keep on taking practice tests, you'll eventually settle down at a particular score. But if you want to increase your score, you have to go back and relearn everything. And so I believe it's kind of like a iterative process that follows with practice tests. If you want, for example, if you want to get a grade 5 and you are idling on a grade 4 in tests, I'd say it does not make sense to do more tests, but it makes sense to relearn everything and get everything from first principles, and then go back to doing practices and just this keep on following the cycle until you reach, until you reach your level and you're where you're happy at.
Yeah, great. Uh, Definitely encourage you to do a few practice tests to get the hang of the test, to understand your comfort factor with it. Don't overdo it. Like Arsh said, you could plateau out, you burn out energy doing tests. So don't overdo it, but definitely do it and find that comfort spot. So um, I believe this is the last question that I'm going to take, and we'll go Tanay first and Arsh second, and we'll do it in a rapid fire style. Hardest AP according to you?
Stats. Out of
Stats.
the ones I took, at least.
No others? Stats for sure.
Yeah. After that would be physics for me, and then politics. Um, yeah.
Okay, super. I mean, I believe this is a subjective question, right? I mean, what's easy for one person is hard for the other. But I hear both of you say stats. That was one subject that both of you took. So I'm happy you said that. And for those of you in the audience that are doing stats, maybe put some more gas into the engine, right, for that one. So on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to both Tanay Nistala and Arsh Chhabra for being here on a Valentine's Day and a Sunday. So now I hope you will be able to join Stephen and go have fun, do something interesting on the Valentine's Day. We love the APs, but I think there are other things we love in our life. So everybody have a great time, and I hope you learn something interesting from this AP series that are running in the next few weeks. And thank you, Arsh, and thank you, Tanay, so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Hi everyone.